thank you for watching this video of Playwrights Foundation's first video podcast in this time right now. I'm Jessica Bird-Beza, the Executive Artistic Director at Playwrights Foundation. And if you aren't super familiar with us, Playwrights Foundation is a new play development organization in San Francisco that supports and champions contemporary, diverse playwrights, specifically uplifting new voices into the American theater. So a little bit about us. And in this time right now, one of the reasons we're doing this video podcast is really to just make space in this time to listen to different playwright perspectives and build community online, as we all are stuck in our homes and right now can't produce the theater that we normally are producing. So this one is an experiment, and we'll probably move forward and make them live or recorded, but thank you for joining us for our first ever video podcast. And as you can tell, we have three playwrights here with us today. So I'm going to introduce them, and then I'm going to go into another room / turn off my video and let them have a conversation here today. But first we have Lauren Gunderson, who is an alum and board member at Playwrights Foundation and host of our conversation today. But for those of you who don't know who Lauren is, last year she was named one of the most produced playwrights in America and is known for I and You and Book of Will. And we also have Octavio Solis with us, who is also a board member of ours at Playwrights Foundation. And we're grateful to have him in service with us, and is considered one of the most prominent Latino playwrights in America. So also, if you haven't seen or read any of his work, please get a hold of it. Known for Quijote Nuevo, Lydia, and Santos and Santos. And last but not least, Peter Sinn Nachtrieb. I realized I didn't ask if I should say your middle name, but do you go by Peter Nachtrieb?
Yeah, either way. Sinn, the middle name is good for professional times. It's my mom's maiden name, so it's my shout out to my mom.
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll shout out to your mom right now. But Peter is also a multiple-time alum at Playwrights Foundation, and for the past 5 years has been the Mellon Playwright in Residence at Z Space, and plays that you may know him for are Boom, Bob, and Hunter Gatherers, and has also at one time or another been the most produced playwright in America. So we have an exciting group of folks here right now, and I am excited to turn it over to them and to Lauren, and for them to just kind of talk about where they are right now and what the future might be that we all kind of have these question marks about. So take it away.
Thanks, Jessica. Hi, guys. First off, where are you coming from? I'm in San Francisco in my home office. Where are you, Octavio?
I'm in my farm, my 3-acre farm just outside of Medford, Oregon, in the hills up here, pretty isolated, about a 20-minute drive to Ashland, Oregon, where the Oregon Shakespeare Festival is, which is sort of my new artistic home.
Mm-hmm. And where are you, Peter?
I am just over the hill from you, in the Mission District in San Francisco, in my home office. My partner, Mark, is in his home office, which was formerly the living room.
The Sutro Tower up there.
I know, the green screen effect
tower.
is rad.
I'm masking the ugliness of my home office in the virtual background. But
I don't know how you did that, but it works. It's great.
Yeah, this is from one of my hikes. This is what I do every day, or many days a week. I walk up to like Twin Peaks or the Diamond Heights Safeway, which is very calm, or other sort of hilly walks to get some exercise.
Yeah, I do too. I do Buena Vista right near me. Well, the kind of purpose of this, as Jessica mentioned, is to talk with writers and to figure out what you're feeling right now, and perhaps how you're working, if you're working, what writerly thoughts are happening, whether those actually make it to a page or a screen or just live in your brain. And then kind of end with, what are you thinking about what this means for what we do, what we love, the future of things? Yeah, so I'd love to know kind of what's on your mind. How are you handling things? Is it just a wall of anxiety, or are you kind of taken deep breaths, or what's your world like? Let's start with Peter. What's it like to be a playwright cooped up?
Cooped up playwright. In some ways, it doesn't change anything as far as like the writing process. It's like, oh, I'm working at home still, but I have fewer cafe options.
Less fresh coffee of a certain quality, at least for me.
I think I just finished a second draft of a play right before we got sheltered in place here in San Francisco, and I'm working on another one. There's something about, I guess one is just recontextualizing everything that I'm working on. That all of a sudden there's just a slightly different frame that I'm thinking about it in, because we're so deeply in a moment right now, and that like the present is so actively part of our lives, as opposed to the future, which feels very sort of uncertain. So there's part of this time where I'm like wanting to sort of experience the present moment rather than reflect on it yet. That as I'm thinking about this experience, I feel like I write a lot about very heavily disrupted moments in people's lives. So this feels like I'm in the play I wrote right now. So there's some of that, because I have a lot of, apocalypse is my wheelhouse.
Yeah, that's your jam.
Yes, it is my jam. So I'm like, all right, this is my jam, although it's a lot more boring than I think.
Less fun than that. Yeah, you should write this one. Can you take over the writer's room of this pandemic?
But I have one of the plays I'm working on right now is about 7 people that are trapped in a hotel room. And it's a play about tactile relationships. And I was already writing about trying to explore isolation and digital interfaces, like how hard it is for people to actually be together and touch each other, and that we're often sort of pushed to not trust one another. And so writing a play about 7 people that are forced to trust one another in a room and negotiate with each other. And the play ends in an orgy, I think, at least the current draft. So like, that's going to be really hard to stage. If
I didn't think about that.
During a pandemic.
No touching.
So that's sort of a hodgepodge of thoughts that I'm having, but mostly it's sort of like there's just a little bit of a change in the context of how I'm writing or what we're writing about, and then just added uncertainty of the future, which is sort of already part of the life of a playwright.
Mm-hmm. That's right. What about you, Octavio? What's kind of in your mind and heart these days?
Well, I haven't written anything since I've come back. I find myself also reflecting and reacting, being in the moment and taking it all in. I've got a lot of work to do, but I feel like all last month and so far this month, I haven't written a word. Yeah. And I think it's because I'm kind of just living in this moment, dealing with it. And in many respects, I know it sounds kind of bougie to say this, but I really needed the break.
Yeah.
I feel like I really needed the break. I've been just running myself ragged. And this last 2 months, January and February, were 2 of the busiest months of my life. I was on a plane 8 times, on a flight 8 times over 2 months, and it killed me. And when I got back in late February, I just felt like I really just needed to just spend some downtime, and I didn't know quite how I was going to manage that. And then this happened, and I kind of just said, oh, wow, great. That means I won't have to do this workshop in Syracuse that I was looking forward to, but also kind of dreading because I didn't know if I'd have the energy for. And then I was supposed to do go to a book festival in Tucson to do some readings and be a panelist for my book, Retablos. And both those events got canceled. And so I in many ways, I was thinking to myself, this is actually really good. I think I needed the break. I needed to get off the rat race. And now what's interesting is I feel like the whole world is also, that rat race has also come to a complete halt in some respects. And I feel like I think the world needs it too. I think nature needed it. And I'm thinking, I've been thinking in larger terms about this, and I feel like nature has sort of just slapped us down and given us a timeout. We've been bad, really bad, and given us an imposed timeout and grounded us indefinitely till we sort of figure out, what we did wrong. And so I think it's good. I think it's good. We can't. There's some things we can't control. Nature is smarter than science, and science is always, responding to and catching up to what we learn about nature. But it's always one step ahead, several steps ahead, and we're always simply reacting to and responding to. But that just sort of maybe is supposed to tell us that we need some time to just come back and deal with in this solitude, in this isolation, in this downtime, deal with what we've done to nature. Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping that some things will change. I know the air is clear, mm-hmm. Less flights, less cars, so less fuel emissions. I know there's less tuna fishing in the ocean, so there's more tuna. There's less bear being hunted, less deer being hunted. I read how there are coyotes all over the streets of San Francisco who feel like, oh, it's our world again. We can go out and they're like lying openly in the street and people's lawns, and I think that's wonderful. But we know it's not going to last. And at the same time, I know that it's people's livelihoods, and there are people who are dying and are very ill, and people whose families are starving, and there's so much fear about them being evicted and all that. But I also, but I think it's so that we can all just take a little time out to figure out what we've done before we get back on track. I just feel like that we needed this.
I've been thinking about a couple things to kind of each of your points about witnessing, and the artist's primary job is a witness, is somebody to, as you were both saying, be in this present moment and to feel the power and the good work artistically of just going, what is going on? How have things changed rapidly, slowly? What are the big thoughts, like the earth needs to breathe for a second? What are the different thoughts of going, wow, I look at the cashier at Whole Foods totally differently now than I did last week. And the person who delivers the UPS, and how grateful I am for these people suddenly. That's good work. Just being vigilant and aware of what's happening.
Yeah.
Kind of to counter this narrative of, there's a bunch of people that were like, wow, you'll just write so many plays in this break. I was like, not a break, it's a pandemic. This is a crisis. It's not like a writer's retreat. This is big. Even if I didn't have two tiny little boys running around the house like I do, it would still be the electricity in the air is different. People are so worried, and the walking down the street and watching people veer away, even though I go, thank you for veering away and staying 6 feet. That's good citizenship. It's also a weird feeling to go, we're eyeing each other in different ways, and who has it, who doesn't, and all of those things. And of course, constantly thinking of who we've lost already, and flashing back to HIV and other plagues in our past, and kind of having this just enormous empathy with people in different scenarios, the acknowledgement of privilege, who has a big house to shelter in, who has a one-room apartment to shelter in, who can go outside, who can't, who's got help, who doesn't. And I mean, it's all of this stuff that, to me, because I'm not being very creative in terms of getting words to a play on the page right now, but my mind is just chock full of things, bits, little observations and new feelings that I haven't felt before, and new way that I think of my own parents and my own kids. And I just burst into tears just watching my kid. I mean, they were like fighting over a train or something. And I was just like, life is so beautiful. That doesn't happen when they usually fight over stupid toys. And, you know, just kind of surfing the waves of all of this. It is a strange new feeling that I feel like we will only fully understand like a decade from now, and we'll be able to write about this and it will be very clever and profound. But right now I'm just like, whoa.
Yeah, I'm the same way too. And also, you know, there has always been some question about like, why do we need art? Nobody goes to the ballet or the opera or goes to see art or music events in the same way that we used to. And so there's been this question about what's the value of art. Well, you learn what the value of art is when you're locked at home and you realize, you know, you're streaming movies, you're reading books, you're looking for live concerts, someone performing a solo performance that they're streaming just for you online. I saw about how this little girl had wanted to see Hamilton.
Oh, I saw that too.
And Lin-Manuel Miranda gathered his cast, and they did it like a solo performance of some of the songs for her. And then you go, see, when we're locked away, the first thing we resort to is art. And so I know that we matter in this way. We really always have mattered, but it takes sometimes a crisis like this to kind of bring us to the fore.
And I wonder, I'm sure some of you might have been asked to stream some of your work or read monologues or allow some scenes from your plays to be out there in various ways. I'm getting requests like that, and I'm seeing a ton of my our colleagues, you know, out there in that way. And it started to occur to me, not to jump totally into kind of the what's next, what does the world look like when we're back to quote unquote normal, whatever that means now. But I wonder how this changes theater. I mean, part of me goes, I would love to be able to buy a streaming pass to see shows in Chicago or Atlanta or Denver or Ashland. I would love to be able to, if I can't physically get there, which a lot of those cities I can't go, certainly see every show, but I would love to see shows at OSF and the Goodman. And, you know, is there a way that this becomes a new normal? Or do we just go back and you're like, yes, no more streaming, no more streaming shows, no more. You have to be there, you know, and I'm hopeful perhaps that we can maybe learn how many people watch those streaming things. And some people will go, I'm not streaming a play. That's not how play works. I don't want to see a streamed play. Get off my screen. I want to be in the seat. And of course I do too. But anyway, stuff like that, I'm really curious about kind of once the doors have been opened, if this allows us to think, well, maybe the next iteration of this art form includes more accessibility, more streaming for cheaper and cheaper prices. So even if you live next door to the theater, but you can't pay $80 to see a show, you could pay $5 and see it on your screen. You know, I'm not against that. Okay. I don't know what exactly means in the long run, but I'm curious. So I'm wondering if you have come across anything that kind of goes, oh, maybe we should keep that or continue playing with it. Have you experienced any streaming plays, and were you like, oh, or did you enjoy it, or what's your experience of it?
Peter, what do you think?
I don't know. Well, interestingly, I watched the opening and closing night of Tony Stone here at ACT. It was the final day before they shut everything down, and then just revisited. And then because I was a ticket holder, I got the streaming version of it, and just started to watch it. And it was one thing was really interesting, I thought, was how I was experiencing the play so differently. It became this even more intimate for some reason, that I was able to really, it was a very personal experience watching it streaming. It was a very different kind of experience, that I was not the role of the audience, which was still there. They shot a preview of it.
I was so grateful for that. I think that's the weirdest thing is when you shoot it without an audience. That's when it feels like not theater to me, or it's just hard. It's like, oh, that joke would be so funny if other people were laughing at it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I appreciated that Tony Stone and Gloria had that.
It's like feels like a live event, and it was different. But I also think there's something really exciting about how that capability of sharing a live event across barriers, whether that's geographic. Most, for the theaters from around the country are able to share in some way the work that they do that doesn't require moving the entire physical thing to another place. I hope that's exciting to me. I don't personally find it an adequate replacement, obviously. But the same way the National Theater has been doing this, maybe this is a kick in the butt for American theaters to do something similar as a way of sharing work across our giant country and get to really see what other people are doing and cross-pollinate. And that is pretty exciting.
I was thinking, flashing back to having newborns and how I was just out of the world for several months when my kids were born, but I was up every night when I was nursing them and tending to them, and heck yeah, I would have watched a play on my iPhone at that point to feel like I was still part of this thing, this community that I loved, and I wasn't missing that premiere that I wanted to see. Even any version of theater, I think can be a good addition to the experience, but I'm just trying to think of all the different students and anyway.
But that has always, at least since we've had the internet and we've been able to upload video, that's been available. It's just that the impediment has been the unions. The actor unions have clamped down on that and absolutely denied that from ever being a possibility, unless there is a deal to pay the artist, or it's built in, because our local theater here will have, the Cinemark Theater will have like a special performance of the RSCs, Richard III, or an opera, a filmed opera, but it's shot with super high quality cameras from several different angles. And so it's not like, the camera at the back of the theater that they do for archival purposes. And I've often requested those archival performances for grant purposes, and they always have to check in with the union, and there's so many hoops to jump through to be able to provide that to the artist so that he can, with the strict instructions that it's not to be disseminated in any other form. Well, I think that has to change.
I think so too.
I think that's got to be dropped. It doesn't mean that every performance has to be streamed, but maybe there is a performance in the middle of the run that is going to be shot before a live audience with 3 cameras, one that can do close-ups, that is choreographed in a very specific way so that it really captures more than just just everyone in the screen, and because that gets really dull. That looks like a film play, and it just looks like, oh God.
And there's got to be a way. I think if you can, maybe there's whatever rules there are, but this is what I mean. I feel like now that we've kind of gone and said, yes, I want to support the arena in DC, and I want to support Second Stage in New York, and I can't get there and see Young Jean Lee's play, but heck yeah, I'm going to stream it if I can, please. How much money can I give you to stream that? Because how much theater do I miss across the country that I would love to see even an approximation of? So I hope that conversation can happen and negotiations could happen with unions and with theater companies. Maybe it's just the ones that are programmed to land in flu season, and we go, all right, if you have a January play, maybe we want to film it just in case. Or maybe it's every play and we go for a week after the show closes, you can stream it online for $10 or $20 or whatever, more money for the theater, more money for the actors. It seems like it's a no-brainer to me.
I've tried to, I haven't seen any of the film plays yet, the videotape plays yet that have been streaming recently. But I have something coming up this Friday, the 10th.
What is it?
and it's going to be strictly a reading, but it'll be like this with Zoom, and we'll all be reading my translation, quote unquote, of Edward III,
Oh,
of
great.
Shakespeare's plays, with Louis Douthit organizing it and planning it through Play On. It's one of the Play On plays.
Wonderful.
So she asked permission for me, to do that, and wants me to be there. Wants me to be one of the talking heads on this, but with the cast. And so she's casting it right now, and we'll be surprised, when it happens on the 10th. I don't know if it's going to be live streamed for everybody, or if he's going to record it and then put it out there in the world for invited audience to see. I can certainly find those details out. But I know that that's going to happen.
It makes things possible that weren't before, and makes things, maybe lets people into our process a little bit more, and maybe helps people understand theater a little bit more. These online Facebook classes that I've been doing, in some ways, are less about really creating a new generation of playwrights, although wouldn't that be great? That sounds like great to me. But it's also just it's more theater appreciation. It's a chance for us to get together and talk about this thing, even though, because we can't go. And if it takes, the form of a class or an interview or whatever, but the more that I'm able to talk about theater and access it, whether it's Lin-Manuel doing a few minutes of a song he wrote, or Taylor Mack making all sorts of beautiful shenanigans on Instagram. I mean, anything is, I think, just such a shot in the arm of energy and art, and kind of just the indomitable spirit of artists. Like you just can't stop us. We just won't stop. Listen to my song, listen to my show. It's happening. Well, what do you think about all of it, Peter?
Well, I was just thinking like this, the streaming thing and the challenges we've had in this country as far as like how the obstacles we have to present and share work, like speaks to a certain sort of like bureaucracy that has infiltrated, especially the larger theaters of this country. And now we're in a moment where all this long-term thinking of planning a season 2 years ahead of time might not be the best choice. Right. And I'm wondering if this is a chance or an opportunity for, or it is like for sort of this radical innovation and rethinking of how we do theater in the country as far as like the organization of it. Obviously, small theaters are way more elastic and responsive and can jump to the moment. And I'm hopeful that, I wonder if that can happen even at our largest theater institutions. Can programming happen faster? Can writing happen faster? Can we be more elastic? Because if uncertainty is our future, it's going to be required to be, and think about how quickly this happened, that all of a sudden we're watching shows from around the country that there was no negotiation between unions and theaters, and then it had to happen, and it happened. So things can happen quickly if they have to. So that's something I'm curious about, is will this change any sort of structural things that we've always been complaining about as far as how theaters do their work in the future, because all of a sudden the rules are different and the reality has shifted. And so that's something I'm kind of curious about.
Yeah, I'm also curious about, like, can we write plays for audiences of 10?
Right.
For really small houses where we can actually perform them in a bedroom or someone's living room, a small space, for a very boutique kind of experience, and then round robin, bring the next audience in just several hours later, then the next group of 10. If we can't have large groups, can we do that?
Yeah.
But I'm also on some level wondering about, like, how is this going to change writing? You could always tell a post 9/11 play from a pre 9/11 play, and I'm curious about how that's going to change what we write about, how we write. the
I
work
think
you've
there's going
been
to be a
doing.
lot of terrible pandemic plays
Yeah, a lot.
in about a year.
It's gonna be a Spanish flu play festival.
Oh God, it's going to be sorry to cut you off, but I had this thought in my mind of like, oh my God, there's so many people going to be like January 10th, 2020. And we're like, no, oh God, here we go.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, but yeah.
That's why I'm really kind of just impressed with Peter, how he was sort of in many ways prescient about this in his work. I just think that's incredible.
Yeah.
By the way, I just saw, again, it's one of my favorite films, but I just saw it again because of the situation we're in. I saw Exterminating Angel. It's filmed by Luis Buñuel, where it's set in Mexico City, and it's the upper crust go to this lavish dinner party at this estate. And overnight, they realize that they can't leave. They get drunk and they all fall asleep, and in the morning, they don't know how to leave. They're trapped in this one room, one large room.
Oh no!
Oh wow! Oh God!
And all the kitchen staff goes, "All right, we're free," and they leave. They just leave them all. Everybody leaves except all these other people are trapped in, and they don't. There's a line there, and that they can almost see it's this threshold in this room, and they don't know how to cross it.
Get out. Oh, that's so interesting.
And it makes news. The news media are all around the house, surrounding it, waiting to see when they're going to leave, who's going to take the first step.
Oh my God!
It's so funny, and relationships start, relationships break up. They're trying to figure out, where do we poop? Things like that.
Practical questions.
It's the most important. No wonder the toilet paper was hoarded.
Yes.
Everyone was worried about is, where are we going to poop during this?
Exactly. The most fundamental human question. It's true. It's true. I mean, it does. I think what we write about, I think to Peter's point, you mentioned the word isolation. Yeah, that's, I think we are who our heroes are. I think way more of the Amazon delivery guy and the grocery stockers at Safeway as heroes, and the doctors, of course, than I certainly do any leaders or, that I'm of very little use right now, but everyone who works at Safeway is our hero. It's our heroes now. And like, who are our heroes? How do we interact with each other? What is the most important thing?
The highlight of the day is getting the mail. Going to the post box and walking out there and going, we got mail.
We did. I know it's a big day. And of course, 5 o'clock when I can drink a glass of wine. That's like, oh God, it's good. It's good.
The last time I did a Zoom thing like this was a friend of ours from San Francisco in the Bay Area called us and or emailed us and said, I'm having a cocktail party and it's for us. Do you want to join? Do you want to be part? I said, sure, I could use a drink. So we had a cocktail party and showed up, our what particular drinks we were having and drank glasses, and then chatted for amiably for like an hour and a half. It was really wonderful.
Not bad. And in that way it goes, friends are still friends and cocktails are still cocktails. It's just what is it to, because it's one thing to have a Zoom cocktail party when you can go visit each other, and it's kind of like, wow, we're really lazy, but it's a bit of salvation to do it when you can't, to go, thank God we have all this crazy technology. I mean, a month and a half ago I was complaining, I was like, I know I check my phone too much, I know, and now I'm like, thank God I have these things to have great conversations like this, and much less to talk to my mom and my dad. And we're going to do like a virtual Seder next week and all of this stuff. But it is interesting. I mean, to bring it back to theater for a moment, I think conversation about what we write about, who knows? And I think it will probably be the perpendicularly related subject matter that will actually tell us the most about this time. It won't be a play about a pandemic. It'll be a play about something else, like the movie that you mentioned. What is the deconstruction of this experience? I don't know yet. Who knows? But somebody will hit the nail on the head. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, we're in the belly of the beast right now, so we can't really, we don't have the perspective yet. And not only that, we don't know if we'll be able to go outside 3 weeks from now, or 3 months from now, or 6 months from now. It can be extended. We
it's
just
crazy.
we have no clue.
Well, my kids remember what school is. Will school always be online? Oh, God help me. But it's also a practical thing of going, because starting to have some conversations with artistic directors. I mentioned this a little bit earlier about how they choose plays. If there is a possibility, if this coronavirus becomes a season, every year we go, all right, here's coronavirus season, like we have a flu season. This isn't actually an unusual pattern. We have flu season, that's why we have flu vaccines. We could have the you get a corona vaccine as well, whatever. If there is a seasonality to it, it's something we can expect or plan for, or we just go, if it happened once, it can happen again. Does that change which plays people program? And does it mean that, I mentioned this, does it mean that we go back to really small plays that can easily be like, actors stand over in that corner, little set, small cast, go. We can just turn a camera on it or do a Zoom reading of it and you get an approximated version of it. Or, seems to me an extreme. Is it mainly one or two person plays? So we don't have an August Osage County or an Oslo or what do we do with musicals? I don't know. Or do we plan normally and we go back to like, we're just going to plan how we always planned and then kind of just white knuckle it through January and February and March every year. I don't know.
Wouldn't you want your Corona slot to be like the largest possible play you could possibly make? Because you're gonna be stuck in your house, you're alone. Don't you want to see like the 30-person
I do
spectacle with amazing stagecraft and
I do.
Tremendous collapsing sets and see all that magic of theater that it offers, and save those intimate pieces for when you can only bring 10 people into the theater at a time.
But it's interesting, I will say, so we did just a streaming reading for the Women's Play Festival in North Carolina just a month ago, where they did a reading of my one-woman play Natural Shocks, which is about a woman trapped in a basement while a tornado is nearby and she's sheltering. And we did it over Zoom, and the actor was absolutely incredible. And because she shot it in a corner of her room where her little computer camera was just on her, it was the most intimately realized version of that play I have ever seen. And the fact that she was trapped on my computer screen in the box that we're all in felt just chillingly perfect in a way. It was literally like she was sending a Zoom message just to me while she's the story. So I think in some ways there are stories that go, well, should this play only be done on Zoom? Is that what I'm hearing? This should literally only be done on like an iPhone camera holding up and doing it. But then of course, something like these big spectacles, I want that big feeling. Maybe that's why we have so many theaters, to explore all the possibilities of this. But I will say this morning, I woke up to all these West End actors sang One Day More from Les Mis, and they did all of the video, all of the little squares of everyone singing. I was weeping this morning over coffee. It was just like, yes, I want a big show.
Yeah, we miss that. We miss the community. I miss sitting in a theater with strangers next to me and in front of me and behind me, all having the same feast. And that's been taken away from us, unfortunately.
I miss the applause. I miss the like collective gasp and the laughter and the punching the person next to you, being like, ha ha ha.
Poets and novelists and fiction writers and essayists, they can write and they can publish the work in one form or another and get it out. But we rely on that interaction with an audience. And in the same way that live musicians rely on that too. They can still record their music, they can put it out, they can still get the band in a room together or even through Zoom and perform it out, but it's still nothing compared to the live experience of having somebody there cheer. I find it so hard to watch Colbert on TV because I just misses the laugh.
I know.
And it's this strange, awkward silence that happens. All these where these jokes should have a response, and it just feels like, oh man, it's tepid, it's anemic.
It's true. You know, to your point, it confirms how critical audience is to the completion of the art. I mean, it really, if you ever wanted proof that we mean it when we say like the audience is the last ingredient, the final ingredient of the show. Like, now you know what we're talking about.
And in many ways, the most essential, the most crucial. We need them. We need someone to witness, and witness as a community. You know, sometimes my work is comic. I know Peter's work is distinctly comic, and you rely on that laughter. You rely on having that communal laughter.
It's that character you can't control that's in your play, and I love trying to manipulate them, and they're so crucial and important to the experience. I mean, that's audience experience is something that or how you receive something is something I'm sort of obsessed about, and it's hard to do that without them.
The theater magic. I mean, my version of that is, although I play with comedy a lot in my work, I want that transcendental moment of revelation at the end that only happens in theater. And several of my plays end with some sort of acknowledgement that this is a play and there's an audience and you're there and we're there together. You're breathing the same air I am. And that kind of overwhelm of that feeling like we're doing this together. And of course that doesn't work on Zoom, or at least I don't know how to make it work. Maybe there's got to be a way to do it. I don't know it yet.
Because I could be watching a performance that is streaming, but I can walk away and go to the bathroom and come back, and it won't affect their performance at all. No. They won't know that I've even done that.
In that case, that's a good thing, but
you know, but
in other cases, yes, I want to be able to go, yes, woo.
Yeah. But that's the thing about performing before a live audience, is that the audience changes the performance.
Yeah.
They affect it and change it in a deeply essential way. It's like we require them to have an effect on it. And sometimes, you know, the audience has had a bad day and they come and they're grumpy or they're quiet. They're not laughing where they're supposed to. And we're all going, what's going on? What's the matter with this house? They're not responding. And then at the end, they still give you a standing ovation. You go, well, shit, I wish they let us know that they were enjoying it the way as much as we thought they should. Mm-hmm. But you just can't predict that. And that's what's so wonderful about it.
I miss it.
I miss
It'll
it
come back soon.
Deeply.
I was approaching in our
I was going to say it's a human need. It's like there's something biological about that group experience and for us to gather and have an experience together, and that will always come back in some way. That sort of gathering for a ritual, whether it's theater or something else. And
yes, we're such a highly social species, the most highly social species on the planet. That isn't like a beehive. And it is true. We need each other. We need to know that we're not alone. That we feel the same thing as other people. That's why laughter is as powerful as it is because it's so obvious that we're all agreeing that this is ridiculous or funny or beautiful or strange. That's true with every emotion that we get in the theater, why it's so valuable.
Yeah. You know, I think about like in England when they, that period after Shakespeare, when they banned theater, and there were no plays for like 40 years or something like that.
Yeah.
And when it came back exuberant. Huge, very different, with a lot of European touches, but it came back with such exuberance and lustiness that it was irrepressible at that point. It just, you know, when they brought it back, it came back big. Yeah. So I have a feeling that the same thing's going to happen.
Here's to that.
So let's all write really big plays.
Yes. Yeah. Norman, just like unfathomably complicated.
Yeah, and because there'll be a lot of actors that'll need the work.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. We're going to write like 40-person plays. I mean, everybody, come on in.
My heart goes out to them too. They're really hurting. They're really hurting. They're not performing and they're not making any money. They can't even do commercials. They can't do PSAs at all.
I mean, costumers, set design, everybody. It's just,
yeah.
Now, I would love to kind of end our amazing talk. Thank you both so much. This is so what I needed right now.
Yeah.
I hope it means something to other people. I know it will. I wonder, just to kind of know that we're probably talking to several theater makers out there, and if there's any advice or wisdom or anything that you would just offer up to those writers out there, or directors, creators, theater fans. You've already done so in the conversation of giving such inspiration and truth. But I wonder if there's kind of any last words you want to offer people.
Well, I just want to say to the other writers that even when you're not writing, you're writing. You're writing. It's happening. It's just happening up here right now and in here. And if that's where it's happening, it's because the process requires you to keep it there for a while. But it's going to come out, and trust that it'll come out. And to the theater makers that are out there, that just be as patient as the rest of the world is. Just be patient, because we're going to be finding the light of day soon, and soon is relative, and to the rest of the world is learn from this quiet thing that this lull in the days in the world's business. Learn from that. I know that when we come back, I know there's going to be a change in how people work. I think a lot of people are realizing that they could accomplish as much at home as they do in the office. So I think people are going to start saying, I don't need to commute for 2 hours to be in a building and then get home at 8 or 9 o'clock at night and miss seeing my family, when I can do that same amount through teleconferencing in this way, and do a lot of work that way. They cleared out the stock exchange floor. So because it was a petri dish, basically, they cleared it out and said, we're going to actually open the stock market without anyone there. And they didn't skip a beat. It's running smoothly, and no one is there because they're all doing it remotely. And I think there's lessons in that, about that. And I think that's at least one of the big lessons that I think people are going to learn about this. And the other one is that the other big lesson I think we're all going to learn is, I know that we all need homes, we all need real estate, but I think commercial real estate is going to take a hit because of that. Because I don't think anyone needs more places to go work when you can find work and make work at home. But a lot of the things that we're missing are going to come back. I think we'll find a way back to them.
Yeah. What about you, Peter?
Yeah, I think, just what you said, Octavio, about there's something really interesting about this moment of breath that we're in, this sort of just break or disruption in how everything was going. That's really interesting and really valuable to listen to, and it's an opportunity to listen. I feel like it's really interesting just to note how radically and quickly things can change in a very short amount of time, and how we've all adjusted. That maybe 3 weeks ago, the Zoom meeting was something that maybe we'd done a few times, and now it's like by week 3 of shelter in place, it's like just our just adjusted normal for the moment. And there's something really interesting about the quickness of change.
Yeah.
I guess I'm trying to listen and note even the most tangential experiences related to this pandemic. I think there's hotspots in those tangential things that are happening to us that aren't necessarily the big story, and trying to note those. And then the other thing, other advice is I have something a program called Freedom that cuts my internet access off of my computer. And I find that extremely valuable. Even when I do it for, like hour and 15 minutes just to sit and write, and that if there are opportunities to create ritual around your writing process, that I'm finding those very helpful, as far as still having to shut out the sort of we're still getting an onslaught of media thrown upon us, and we need to take time away from that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, I agree with both of you. And I find myself thinking that exactly what you said, Octavio, writing's happening just as you are pondering and sifting through ideas and experiences and asking yourself, do I want to write that? What is that? Is that a writing idea? Is that a play? No. Yes. No. All of that is work well done. And also that if you want to write, you can always write a thing and immediately delete it. You can journal, you can write a really beautiful email to your mom or dad. if there's other ways of using your articulation and the emotionality of language and the preciousness of it to put something good out in the world, even if it's not the great opus, and making other things. I'm feeling very connected to food, the making of food, and helping my son with his reading and the cherishing of words on that level of like, yes, that is the word dog. You did it. That feels like a great, beautiful triumph of theater, as well as some of my better speeches or plays. So it's kind of the shifting perspective of what's really, really valuable when things are all taken away and everything's different and new.
Yeah, I'm so lucky that I have 6 chickens that are daily laying like 3 to 4 eggs a day. I have the freshest eggs.
Oh,
We milk our goats, so we have the freshest milk and yogurt and cheese. I'm so fortunate that we have these things, and that we can still go to our grocers and pick up fresh produce and meat and all that. And we have a meat locker where we can store things. It's just, and we have wine delivered to our home from Navarro and local wineries here. We're very, 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 very fortunate.
Yeah.
But I'm most fortunate in being able to connect with my dear, sweet friends, my colleagues, my playwrights like you and you, Peter. Lauren, you're just, I miss you all. I miss you so much in San Francisco, my old town.
Yeah.
Lauren and I, we'll get on a car right now. We're going to drive up to your farm.
I know. I want that.
Yeah, it'd be so great.
When this is over, have hungry playwrights at your door being like, so
about that milk,
some eggs.
Yeah. I'm popping back into the room just to kind of thank everyone, and thank you, Peter, Lauren, and Octavio, for lending your time today and having this conversation, which I know a lot of people are having individually, and kind of bringing it to the collective. So I really appreciate that. And thank you to all of you who are still with us here at the end of this video. I really appreciate you being a part of the community and sharing with us. And, I hope that you'll continue to engage with Playwrights Foundation and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, get on our email list. We really want to just be having more conversations through this time. And we're also one of those organizations thinking about how do we move things online? I mean, luckily we mainly just do readings, but are looking towards our Bay Area Playwrights Festival in the summer and are committed to move forward in one way or another and provide jobs and development and things like that. So if anybody, who is watching this has capacity to give $5, $10, $25, whatever, you do not have to. But if you have the capacity, we're doing a $15,000 matching campaign for our festival, actually right now. So you can actually text BAPF, Bay Area Playwrights Foundation, but BAPF to 844-844-6844. I'm gonna say that one more time, even though you could push stop and go back, but BAPF 844-844-6844. But I also know everybody is in their own state right now. So only if you can help us on this journey to giving lovely playwrights more development opportunities.
Jessica, you're wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Jessica.
Thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen.